my technical difficulties, but I'm glad we were able to continue. I'm Cindy Beckles, the president of Riverwalk Toastmasters, and I want to welcome you officially to the open house. So glad you all came. At this time, I'm getting ready to introduce our final speaker for the evening. Once again, we want to thank everyone in attendance at tonight's open house for joining us. As we wrap up the prepared speech portion of tonight's program, I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, Jess, who has been a member of Riverwalk for over 2 years and will be competing next week in the District 47 Evaluation Speech Contest. Tonight, she's going to share with us some words and stories to get us inspired. To be followed by a Q&A session. So if you're enjoying your speech and you have some questions, no worries. We have 5 minutes at the end where you can present your questions to Jessica. Please help me welcome our Vice President of Education, Jessica Dumig.
I want you all to be the first to know. Today, I had a major accomplishment and I'm over the moon about it. Something I'd been thinking about for a while, but never quite had the ambition or the courage to do. Something that just a few years ago seemed so out of reach that I wouldn't even try. People told me not to do it, that it wasn't important or it wasn't worth the risk. Something I could probably go the rest of my life without doing and be just the same for it. But today, I did it. Today, I did 5 push-ups. Oh, so amazing. What? Is that not what you were expecting? You see, just about 4 years ago, I was minding my own business, fast-tracking my career, and I was unstoppable. And then it happened. Smack! I hit a pink wall of reality. I was diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer, and that morning, everything changed. Over the 5 months to follow, the changes kept coming. My anatomy changed. My mindset changed. My perspective changed. My life changed. Going back to the 5 push-ups I did today, you can imagine why that's kind of a big deal to me. Regaining the strength to do 5 push-ups was about way more than pushing my body weight up off the ground 5 times. It was about the strength to do something scary that other people told me I couldn't, I shouldn't, or I wouldn't do. But lo and behold, I knelt down on the floor. I lowered my stomach to the ground, extended my feet all the way out behind me. These were real push-ups. I put my hand on the carpet, squared my shoulders, and pushed. And up I went. And then down, and then up again, 5 times. Were there pain points? Yes. Was I worried I would only be able to do 1 and not 2, then 2 and not 3? I was. Did I pause at the top to enjoy the victory? Oh, I did. And at the bottom, did I hold my breath and muster the strength to do it again? Of course. But I did it. And it was awesome. How many of you have something on your mind that, according to others, or maybe even according to yourself, you can't, shan't, or won't do? Benita, do you have something that you think you should be doing that maybe you're not?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Jess, I actually do have something that I would like to do, and that is write a book.
Wow. But people say you can, or you say you can, or shouldn't, or won't. How dare you have dreams and aspirations? When I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I kept the news under wraps until I had all the info. But the closer it got to surgery, the harder that became. I soon realized that, like the game of telephone from childhood, misinformation was quickly spreading. All of a sudden, the cancer was stage 4 and I was dying. Or a guy I was dating found a lump. If only. But this was not going to work. I thought about the best way to share my news, and I figured that Facebook would be an appropriate medium. I started a private group, invited everyone I knew, or at least everyone I thought might be interested in following my journey. I expected maybe 30 people. So imagine my surprise when this group swelled to over 150. I used this medium to share all my information, which included photos, sarcastic memes, videos of crazy chickens. I'll put the link in the chat and you can watch it later, and even live updates. As I made my way through each stage in the treatment process toward the all clear, people would ask me if they could invite a friend who had been diagnosed or someone they knew who was supporting someone else on her journey. And of course that was okay, but who would want to hear me ramble on for 45 minutes at 7 o'clock in the morning? Oh, but they watched. Soon I was being told I was an inspiration, that I should share my story and inspire others, that I should write a book. I scoffed at this idea, write a book. Who am I to write a book? I put it in the back of my mind and went on with my life. It's funny though, isn't it? Other people seem to be able to see what we can't sometimes, or maybe that we won't allow ourselves to see. This is sometimes referred to as the terror barrier. Benita, you just mentioned that you yourself were thinking about writing a book. What stopped you?
I'm afraid that if I get started, I probably wouldn't finish the book.
Thank you for that.
Stopped me, yes.
But let me ask you this, and you don't have to answer, but what if you do? You see, the terror barrier has nothing to do with actual fear or terror. It has to do with the idea that no matter what we set out to do, no matter how we rationalize our actions or inaction, there's always something else to scare us. Like Benita, a lot of would-be authors are afraid that they won't complete their work. But then they do. And then they're afraid no one will want to publish it. But then they do. And then they're afraid no one will buy it. But then, everybody together, they do. So I wonder, is it the fear of failing to finish that stops us from starting? Or the fear of success once we finish? Maybe it's neither. Maybe it's both. Fear of success is sometimes just as powerful as fear of failure. But nothing is more impactful than the fear of the unknown. I realized during my cancer journey that the fear of the unknown was worse than any individual part of the treatment. Worse than the surgery, worse than the chemo, worse than the blood draws, worse than the side effects. Even after it was all done, the terror barrier was there. Will it come back? What if it comes back? What if I don't, would I go through this again? What if I don't want to? What will people think if I don't want to fight again? How will they handle it if I do? I can't ask for all that support all over again. Why isn't there a manual for this? And just like that, couldn't, shouldn't, and wouldn't were back in my head. Kind of. This time, they were in the future form. Can, should, will. And so, I wrote the guidebook I wish I had had. I broke through one terror barrier at a time. But what if I don't start? Or what if I start and don't finish? I started, I finished. But what if it's not good? Well, I edited and I made it good. In my opinion, at least. But what if no one wants to publish it? I published it myself. But what if no one buys it? Now that was a tough one. I recently started subscribing to the teachings of a guy named Simon Sinek. Has anyone here heard of Simon? A few of you. Well, Simon discovered patterns about how the greatest leaders and organizations think, act, and communicate. They start with why. I want you to discover Simon's work without any bias, so I'll refrain from going too deep. But the Reader's Digest version of his 18-minute TED Talk is that people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. When you look at all the obstacles of the terror barrier through that lens, they don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Everything changes. Let's do it again. What if I don't finish? Well, why are you writing it? Keep going. But what if no one wants to publish it? But why are you writing it? Publish it yourself. By the time you're done writing the book, it doesn't even really matter if the people buy it en masse. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I realized that if I ever only sold one book, as long as it served as the guidebook I wish I had had for at least that one person, my why was fulfilled, and it was worth it for me. But why am I talking about this at a Toastmasters open house? There's one detail I left out of this story. The self-contained rant that I had that ended with, "Why isn't there a manual for this?" came at a point in my life where I was pretty low. COVID-19 had just sent me into a work from home situation, and to be honest, I was in a toxic job. The person I was growing up was nowhere to be found. Goals, driven, all of that. I had reached the majority of my goals and then some, but I did it about 20 years ahead of schedule. I had no clue where to go next, no roadmap for the future. My membership in Riverwalk Toastmasters had lapsed, but I was still receiving district emails. One email in particular piqued my interest. It was an announcement about an upcoming weekend conference. If I'm being honest with you and myself, I don't know why I signed up, but I did. And then I realized it started at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I really didn't know why I signed up. Those of you who know me, not a morning person, but I did. And I woke up on time and attended, but I didn't know the impact that session would have on my life. The virtual session was about goal setting and accountability partners. After a short intro, we were randomly paired up with one other person to illustrate how an accountability partnership would work. We weren't coaching each other. We weren't solving world hunger together or orchestrating the next etude. We were simply calling each other on our BS, verbalizing micro goals to an unbiased stranger, and following up a week later to gauge results. Keep in mind, the idea of this partnership is not that we would complete our objectives in their entirety, but rather that we, in the 1 week time, would have taken steps toward said goals. Wow, imagine the moxie and the vision I had in that moment, speaking my truth to someone who wouldn't judge me or offer their opinion or tell me what I should do, could do, or would not do. Oh, the vision for greatness, sharing my goals, how empowering. Wow. 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 I didn't have a vision or goals or moxie. You want to know what I said, what my goals were for the week? I want to get married. Yep. I want to get married. That was all I could think of. Not in an I'm so focused on this goal perspective, but more like in a, oh, I'm panicking, what do I say to this woman kind of way. But you know what? Something about it kickstarted my mind. And in the week between the conference session and our follow-up, I figured out my actual goal: to write a book, and the rest is history. Allow me to share with you 4 tips on how to complete your project, whether it's writing a book like Benita or anything else. Number 1, find your why. I'll share a link to Simon Sinek's TED Talk in the chat when I'm done speaking, but this is paramount. This will drive and maybe even clarify everything that you do. Number 2, set SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. I set goals to write 2,500 words per week. I said I wanted to finish the manuscript by July 6th, the 3-year anniversary of my final chemo, and publish by September 19th, my 36th birthday. But there's nothing that says you can't exceed the goals you set. Warrior, the name of my book, is 40,000 words long. I finished writing it in 3 weeks, and I published it on August 20th, almost a month ahead of schedule. And I'll tell you why. Number 3, get an accountability partner. My accountability partner is actually on this call right now. Geraldine and I have been meeting every Monday evening for a year. And in that time, we've accomplished some major goals. I wrote, published, and marketed Warrior. She formulated an online course for people who want to embark on a career change. I'm about to launch a new company. She wrote an ebook and established a regular workout routine. Together, we're hosting a live virtual poolside chat at lunchtime on May 11th to talk about the benefits of having an accountability partner. I invite you to mark your calendar and send me a note in the chat for more information. But number 4, join or become more engaged with Toastmasters. Public speaking and writing go hand in hand, for sure, but they don't walk side by side. Sometimes the writing will lead, sometimes the speaking will lead. In fact, anytime I got writer's block, I flipped the script and wrote a speech instead of a chapter. If you've had a chance to read Warrior, check out chapter 18. If you didn't already hear my voice in my writing, you will after that one, especially after tonight. But speaking will make you a better writer, and writing will make you a better speaker. 4 tips. It's certainly not easy to set and reach your goals, but it really is that simple. Find your why, set smart goals, find an accountability partner, and join or become more engaged with Toastmasters. That Toastmasters conference a year ago helped me turn a page on what was a really dark chapter of my life. Couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, can, should, will. Today, I did 5 push-ups. Thank you for giving me the floor for tonight's keynote. At this time, I'm happy to answer any of the questions you may have. Just unmute yourself and go ahead and shout them out.
So Jess, I actually already put the Simon Sinek talk in the chat.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Benita, looks like you've got one.
Yes. I was curious when you said that you wrote your speech, you wrote your book in 3 weeks, was it? 3 weeks'
Yes.
time.
Yes.
What was it that was the motivating factor to going ahead and wrapping up the speech? Was it everything that you had in your mind that you had collected together that you just needed to get on paper, or what?
Yeah, you know, it's so weird. Sometimes when I was writing, it would just flow. A lot of Warrior is very medical driven, but in a very conversational tone. It's not a textbook. But the second half of the book, and it's split into 2 parts, is the emotional side. And you'd be surprised. I mean, 2,500 words sounds like a lot of words, but my speech tonight was 2,100 words. So if you figure I wrote a 20-minute speech every week, it's funny how it just starts to flow. And honestly, sometimes you just have to start. And the minute you start, you don't want to stop. But one night I was up till 3 a.m. because I didn't realize it was 3 a.m. So something like that where you've set this goal, not with yourself. And this was why the accountability partner is so important. You've told someone else. So now you have to go back to that person in a week and say, "Ugh, I didn't do it." No one wants to do that. I don't care who you're talking to, whether it's your mom, your sister, a complete stranger, or your husband or your boyfriend, whatever. You don't want to tell someone you failed at the one thing you said you were going to do over the course of a week. So once you start, you just kind of keep going. So Bea, I think you had a question as well.
Yes, Jessica, and my question you kind of answered, but about the accountability partner. Did you meet her at a Toastmasters meeting, and how did you meet her? Because this is something very important and helpful to accomplish your goal, I think so.
Absolutely. Well, we both attended that morning session of, excuse me, of the Toastmasters event. We got paired up randomly. It turns out, Geraldine, I think we only live maybe 45 minutes away from each other, but I mentioned this before the full meeting started. Today is the first time, aside from that very first time, that we're looking at each other via Zoom or at all. The very first meeting in the breakout room, we saw each other, and we've been totally on the phone ever since for over a year now. And that was how we met. And it's been awesome, of course. Any other questions?
Sure. I would like to know, what are the challenges that you are encounter having a accountability partner, because it must be challenging reporting to somebody every week.
It's challenging in that you have to put your money where your mouth is. You have to do what you're going to say you're going to do. And sometimes it comes down literally to crunch time where it's 3:30 on a Monday. We meet on Mondays at 6. 3:30 and I'm like, oh, I should probably check our sheet and see what I was supposed to do. So much of it's intuitive. So you're probably, if you're on target with your project, you're doing it anyway. But there's been times where I've logged in at 3:30 and I'm like, oh man, I have to do this by 6 o'clock. I have 2.5 hours to get this done. And so we do. But I'll tell you, some of those challenges make you even stronger. I'm a huge proponent of practice harder than you play. And so Geraldine and I, we set pretty stretch goals sometimes. We say, I'm going to work out 5 times a week, but I know I'll probably only get to 3. But that extra push to get to 5 means I might do 4 instead of the 3 I was going to settle for. And so the challenge is it's self-contained, but it's also about really just forcing yourself to do what you said you're going to do. And it shouldn't be that hard to do it, but sometimes it is.
Gotta be.
And one thing I will say too on that note is that Geraldine and I made an agreement pretty early on, and I think we've only broken it one time, that we don't cancel our session. If it's 10 minutes, that's fine. I think one night we went an hour and change. So as long as we keep that time slot open, I think one time we had to move it because one of us, I think I was sick, but aside from that, we've been every Monday for almost a year. I think May or June will be a year. That's probably the biggest challenge, actually.
Kudos to you guys. Great job.
Thank you. Highly recommend it. Any other questions? Daisy.
Yes, I was going to say, great speech, by the way. And
Thank you.
having an accountability partner is really helpful. I'm part of a women's group that meets here locally, and we have accountability partners. It's more like a small group. So if any of you are interested, I could let you know about that. But also I have found in my life that when I make something public, like Curtis mentioned at the beginning about growing out my gray hair, I remember I did it publicly on Facebook and I said it, that this is what I'm going to do. And the times when I got tempted to dye my hair or whatever, I remembered my promise to myself, which is so important to keep your word to yourself. But the fact that I said it publicly created that much more accountability also. So that's another avenue also that people could do to break habits, change whatever, reach goals. So something that has worked for me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because you could look at this if not you, of course, but the general you could say, you know what? She could have blown off Geraldine. Like, she didn't even know her. It wasn't a big deal. Like, they don't have any other connection. She'd never have to see her again or whatever. And that is 100% true. Could have done it. But I think the discipline to stay engaged was a huge factor. However, one other factor came into play as well. I let one person read my book while I was writing it, and that's my grandmother. And every time I saw her, she'd hound me for more pages. And every time I saw her, I'd fake it and then give her some pages, which was awesome. But the fact that she knew I was writing it, what was I going to do? Like, let my grandmother down? No. So you're 100% right. If you make that public, it adds another layer of, and maybe this goes counter to a lot of things we're talking about these days in general about being accountable to yourself, but it's like what would other people think if I don't finish this? And that's part of it. And it certainly plays together in the larger sandbox, but for sure, Daisy, what you're saying is important. Making it public just solidifies that in the ether or whatever's out there. Elena, I think, we lost Elena. Oh no, there she is. I think you had a question.
Yeah, very light question. You intrigued me with these 5 push-ups. I was wondering, did you discuss it with your accountability partner, Geraldine, before? Is it just for pure improvisation by your side?
No. I was sitting on the couch feeling really lazy, if I'm being honest. I was like, I should like try something. I should get up and move. So I did some squats and I was like, I'm going to do push-ups. And so then I did it and that was it. Super insightful, let me tell you.
Well, that's a good use of your speaker skills, to be able to come up with a topical introduction, and it worked out very well, if I may say so myself.
It was so convenient and such a coincidence. Absolutely. Cindy, I think, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, can you show them the book? Show them your book. Have you shown them?
Of course.
It's right behind you, right?
It is, but that's a green
Your
screen.
hard work.
This is my book, Warrior,
Yeah. Awesome.
and it's available on Amazon. I will send you, I'll put the link in the chat to that as well. I'll put all the links, the chickens, the Warrior homepage, where to buy it. I'll send that through to you.
The other thing is, if you and Geraldine have a magazine, Toastmasters, I think you should consider, this would be fascinating for either the district newsletter or the Toastmaster magazine.
Yeah, well,
started somewhere and what you guys have all accomplished. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mentioned it in the speech, but we are holding a lunchtime poolside chat with Jess and Geraldine, and we're going to be talking through with a moderator a lot of the different aspects of accountability partners, from what makes a good one to pitfalls to avoid. So we'll keep you posted on that for sure. Obviously, it's open to the public and it's virtual, so it'll be a really great event, I think.
Okay, and this is my actual question. A lot of us, we've got the book written or we have the outline. Can you just take us through the final part of it, how you went from having it on paper to actually having that book published? Is it on Amazon? Like, just that part of it. Did you get a publisher? How did you do that? Thanks so much.
Sure. A couple of things that I did not do that probably would have made a very different outcome, I guess, was I didn't do enough research early on. And to be honest, I didn't really want to, so it was fine. I could rationalize it for sure. The process to getting a publisher is a very long process. It can take 6 months to a year from the time you send a book proposal. So if you're even thinking about writing a book and you have a couple of chapters written, I would go ahead, take the initiative and send it out there to any publisher that makes sense if you do want to go with a traditional publisher. If you're writing anything that's self-help or professional development, anything other than fiction or young adult, what I learned, and of course times have changed in the year since I've written it, is it's really difficult to get a publisher because everyone and their mother has this book, and there's also a lot of people who already have 7 published already with them. So a John Gordon, a Simon Sinek, Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, not related, they already have the market on the publisher-driven book, print, and distribution. I ended up self-publishing. I did it through Ingram Spark. And with that, there was an opportunity for distribution globally. So my book's available around the world. It's been purchased around the world, either through Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, Amazon, of course. It's hardcover. It's got the jacket, which is a big thing that I wanted. I didn't just want a hardcover printed book. And that is a huge piece of it, because when you take it into your own hands, then everything is yours. You have to format the interior. You have to get the cover designed. You're responsible for all the editing. You can pay people to do it. It gets expensive really quickly. But you can also watch a YouTube tutorial and do it yourself in Microsoft Word. So it just depends on how much effort you want to put into it or how much money you want to spend to have someone do it for you. All of that becomes very clear when you honestly look. If you Google how to self-publish, you'll get a ton of resources. I highly recommend readsy.com. I'll put the link in the chat. And I also recommend Derek Murphy, and I can put a link in the chat as well. That will get you where you need to be. And then it's just a matter of the tech and just uploading it and publishing it and hitting the road. But writing, if you've already got it written, you're 9/10 of the way there. This is the smallest thing to then get it into book format. And with Kindle, if you just want to have it out as an ebook, you don't even need a hard copy. Just upload it in a PDF to Kindle. It's really that easy. And that's it. Well, thank you everybody for the floor tonight. If there are any other questions, feel free to direct message me. Otherwise, back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you to Elise.